Dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. In today's edition, we are going to talk about the shipments of medical aid which Egypt did send to Tunisia due to the rise of COVID-19 Delta variant infections. Indeed, Cairo has sent several shipments of the medical aid to Tunisia due to the rise of COVID-19 Delta variant infections in Tunisia. Samah Al-Sharif has more details.
Military planes loaded with several tons of medicine, medical supplies, and equipment were sent to Tunisia to aid in the fight against the current coronavirus crisis. The Tunisian government thanked Cairo for the support. Cairo has sent several shipments of medical aid due to the rising occupancy rate at Tunisian hospitals as a result of the spread of the COVID-19 Delta variant. The crisis is exacerbating amid an inoculation drive in the country. More than 500,000 Tunisians received vaccinations on Sunday as part of a national campaign to control the outbreak of COVID-19 after the country received more than 6 million vaccine doses from Western and Arab countries. The slow pace of vaccinations and the handling of the pandemic caused a wave of protests against the government of Prime Minister Hisham Meshishi, who was dismissed by President Qais Said 2 weeks ago among a series of emergency measures. 5 months after the start of vaccinations in the North African country, 1.3 million Tunisians have received 2 doses. In an effort to speed up the vaccination schedule, Tunisia opened vaccinations for those over the age of 40, with thousands flocking to inoculation centers. Intensive care units and emergency departments are full in hospitals across Tunisia. Doctors have complained of exhaustion and a shortage of oxygen supplies. Tunisia seeks to vaccinate 50% of its 11.6 million people by mid-October. The country has reported more than 20,000 deaths and more than 610,000 coronavirus infections since the pandemic began.
And to shed more light on the issue, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Magdi Adli, Senior Manager, Inspector in Health Insurance Authority. Good afternoon to you, Doctor. Hello, Dr. Adli. Hello. I do believe that we are having some technical problems in our communication with Dr. Adli, and we'll take this report and then we'll be back to contact Dr. Adli. Regional African body IGAD called Monday on rival military factions of South Sudanese Vice President Riek Machar's movement to open the path for dialogue after deadly fighting at the weekend. At least 30 people were reported dead in clashes that broke out on Saturday, just days after Machar's foes in his SPLA said that they had ousted him as party leader and head of its armed forces. More details follow.
The Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, held a meeting over clashes in South Sudan that killed 32 people. The IGAD called the emergency meeting of its foreign ministers, saying the current political situation in the young nation required the urgent attention of the Council. The bloc called on rival military factions of Vice President Riek Machar's movement to open the path for dialogue after deadly fighting at the weekend. The clashes broke out just days after Machar's foes in his SPLA-IO said they had ousted him as party leader and head of its armed forces. The IGAD Executive Secretary said he had called on the warring to settle the difference. Bloc has been a key player in peace talks to end the young country's 5-year civil war between forces loyal to Machar and his old foe President Salva Kiir that cost almost 400,000 lives. The latest fighting in Machar's own movement threatens to put further pressure on the already fragile peace accord signed by the two men in 2018 and their power-sharing deal. Each side blamed the other for launching the early morning attacks on Saturday on rival forces in Upper Nile states, which borders Sudan. Machar's forces killed 2 major generals and over 27 soldiers and lost 3 of their own men. In turn, the forces led by Simon Gatwich, last SPLA-IO chief, claimed in a statement they had killed 28 and lost 4 in their ranks. The world's youngest nation has struggled with war, famine, and chronic political and economic crises since seceding from Sudan in 2011. IGAD brings together Djibouti, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, and Uganda, Eritrea suspended its membership in 2007 and has not been readmitted.
And as I have mentioned, that did and food supplies to help Tunisia due to the rise in the number of infections of COVID-19 and the Delta variant. To shed more light, we are joined by Dr. Magdi Adli, a Senior Manager Inspector in the Health Insurance Authority. Dr. Adli, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Sir, Egypt medical aid and food supplies have been dispatched to Tunisia. How do you explain why the COVID crisis in Tunisia has escalated?
Okay, at the outset, we would like to express our concerns for
Great.
victims of fire
Yes.
and as a part of Arabic movement to contain the coronavirus crisis in Tunisia,
Yes.
which facing the unprecedented rise in numbers of infected and death cases because of COVID-19
Yes.
since the beginning of pandemic, which leads to a collapse in medical health regime in Tunisia and discharge of ICU and oxygen supply as well.
Yes.
And at the same time, exhausting of medical team there. Some Arabic countries, including Egypt as well, Saudi Arabia, Emirates States,
Yes.
in a frame of solidarity and cooperation and as a role of the elder sister of all Arabic countries, of course, we share for that.
Yes.
We start to send medical aid and food supplies to Tunisia. And we come to why COVID-19 have been escalated in Tunisia so fast. You know, there is many variants of COVID-19 have been appeared since the beginning of pandemic, Alpha, Beta, up to Delta and Delta Plus. And Delta and Delta Plus, which have been appeared in India by May of 2021. And for the bad luck, Tunisia have been hit by Delta variant. According to the international organization, and that variant is characterized by as its fast in rate of transmission. Although it doesn't have a very severe side effect like other variants, and to contain any variant of COVID-19, you're supposed to have two good factors. One is the high numbers of vaccinated people already, which have two doses, by the way, because if you read the population of Tunisia is like 11 million and something people, citizens, and they give a first dose for 2 million something people. But the first dose is not enough for protection of infection. We need to have two doses to be to have the good percent of protection and inhibition of progress of symptoms. And this is the first factor. The second one is to have a very good, ready health regime system and a qualified and well-trained medical team. In addition to have enough oxygen supplies for hospitals and other medical supplements. And the other thing which is very important is applying of precautional measurement and social distance. And I think there is no proper measurements were taken to prevent the spread of virus in Tunisia last time.
Dr. Adli, how do you weigh the involvement of Cairo in aiding Tunisia in this very important health crisis, as we may say?
As I told you before, we had a role from the leadership of the Mediterranean and Brotherhood of Arabic countries. We supposed to cooperate with other states, Arabic states or African states, for containing that pandemic. And even that crisis is an international crisis, and this is a pandemic virus and a cross-border virus. You understand me? So if there is no cooperation between states, especially when they are belonging to the same roots like Arabic countries, the problem becomes bigger and bigger.
Yes.
Even Mr. President, His Excellency said that before we supposed to share together advanced countries and developed one to contain that pandemic, even in the issue of vaccine availability. And we see, in fact, that on the ground yesterday, before when Egypt received the first batch of vaccine, that under the African Union organization and other organization.
Yes.
This is an example of solidarity and participation of to contain the virus between different countries.
Indeed. Dr. Magdi Adli, Senior Manager Inspector in the Health Insurance Authority. Thank you very much, sir, for your precious input. And indeed, our dear viewers, we are moving now from Tunisia to South Africa, where a South African court on Tuesday again postponed a long-delayed corruption trial against former President Jacob Zuma to the 9th of September, following his hospitalization last week. Zuma's jailing last month on a separate contempt of court matter led to a wave of looting and unrest.
Of South Jacob Zuma over an arms deal dating back more than 2 decades was postponed on Tuesday to next month after he was hospitalized last week. The 79-year-old was admitted to hospital for observation on Friday for an undisclosed condition, which prompted Tuesday's hearing to be held virtually rather than in open court. The case has been carrying on for years and suffered a string of hold-ups. Tuesday's hearing was to involve a plea by the defense to remove a state prosecutor and thus have the charges against Zuma dropped. Zuma faces 16 charges of fraud, graft, and racketeering linked to the 1999 purchase of fighter jets, patrol boats, and equipment from 5 European arms firms when he was deputy president. He is accused of taking bribes from one of the firms, French defense giant Thales, which has been charged with corruption. Zuma last month began serving a 15-month jail sentence for snubbing a commission probing state corruption under his 2009-2018 presidency. He remains in hospital at an undisclosed location.
Well, with that, our dear viewers, we come to the end of our program. After the aid which Egypt did send, the medical and food aid which Egypt did ship to our brothers in Tunisia due to the increase in the infection number of the COVID-19 pandemic and especially the Delta variant. And we wish all our dear brothers in Tunisia to be safe. And our dear viewers, that would bring us to the end of this edition. I'm Mahisi Rabia. Thank you for watching.